Hey, Michael from Equilibar here. I'm going to show you how to hook up your manual or electronic vacuum regulator that you bought from Equilibar. So first we're going to talk about the base of the regulator and how it works, and then we'll go on to manual and then electronic. So we ship these things partially disassembled just to protect them. You'll notice that there's 4 ports on it. There is an inlet, 2 auxiliary ports, and an outlet. So the inlet is where you attach the process. So whatever you're trying to control, you attach it to the inlet. So the direction of flow goes in the inlet and out the outlet. The outlet is where you connect your vacuum supply. So that's just going to allow the gas flow to go through the regulator. These 2 are auxiliary ports. They happen to be common to the outlet port, so we're going to exploit that so that we can pipe just a small line to the pilot regulator. We'll talk more about that in a second. So just by controlling the pressure above the diaphragm, we get to control the pressure on the inlet. So we can control that pressure either manually or electronically. If you're planning on doing it manually, you got one of these guys. It came in the box with it, and it should already have the fittings attached to it. So all you have to do is just screw this top in to the top of the regulator. So this is where it's going to control. So by turning this knob, it controls the pressure in this small cavity above the diaphragm, and that's what sets the pressure upstream. When you do that, you have to attach a small piece of tubing to the auxiliary port here so that this vacuum regulator has something to draw from. Now that's manual. If you want to control it electronically, it's effectively the same thing, except we're using a precision electronic vacuum regulator. So our choice for that is the QPV. This thing, it takes either a 0 to 10 volt or a 4 to 20 milliamp signal and converts it into a controlled pressure. So you'll notice that this thing has a couple different ports on it as well. There's I for inlet, E for exhaust, A for atmospheric reference, and then there's O for outlet. There's actually 2 outlets in this. So you can either orient it like this or like this. So there's also a bleed right here. That's what this little thing is. So let's talk about what each one of these ports does. So the outlet port, which is here or here, this is your work port. This is where you want the control to occur. So as long as you attach it here on the bottom or right here on the side on the ports labeled O, then we'll be controlling the appropriate area. Exhaust, you need to think about the exhaust in terms of the direction of flow here. The exhaust is where we attach our vacuum supply, which we can pull that vacuum supply off of this right here, the auxiliary port. So as long as you just take a piece of push to connect tubing here and attach it, you'll need an adapter fitting here, attach it to the exhaust, then that gives it the vacuum supply that we need. So now we're left with the inlet. So the inlet in this is simply the atmosphere. That's where we're going to be drawing our gas from. Whenever it needs to raise the gas pressure or the pressure above the diaphragm closer to atmosphere, it'll draw it from the inlet. Now, it does come with a centered filter, so you'll want to stick this in the inlet here so that we don't get any dirt or debris from the atmosphere, any dust or anything like that, which could potentially clog up the solenoid valves in this. So last we have the atmospheric reference. Don't do anything with this. Almost all the time, you don't need to touch it. It's just so that the pressure sensor inside has a reference to the atmosphere. It's extremely rare that you ever need to use that. And this is a bleed. It's a precision orifice. It's something like 0.004 of an inch. It's a very, very small orifice, and that just draws in just a tiny bit of atmospheric air so that it keeps the solenoid valve engaged, keeps it working. So once you get all that hooked up, you just stick it on top, outlet to the reference port of the Equilibar, and you'll want to make sure that you put just a couple inches of tubing between the QPV and the reference port here. Because if you don't, then you could end up with some chattering. It'll end up chasing itself. It doesn't take much, but a small but large tubing volume is much better than a short, thin tubing volume. I wouldn't ever recommend using like 16th inch tubing to connect this to the reference port because it'll never control right. Now you can mount this really far away if you have to, just for your convenience. Let's say that it's more convenient for you to have this in a control cabinet that's on the other side of the room. You can do that because the line that's connecting this outlet to here is effectively zero flow line. It's static. So we're just controlling the pressure in that line, and that's what dictates what is controlled upstream. The same thing goes for the manual regulator, but I find that most of the time people just want to mount that right on top. Once you've got all that plumbed up, you're ready to attach your 6-pin Hirschman connection cord. Should have gotten one of those as well if you bought a electronic solution. And those will connect to your PLC or whatever it is you're using to provide the command signal. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions about anything, give us a call at 828-650-6590 or send us an email at inquiry@equilibar.com. Thanks.